Welcome to episode 4 of my Dark Ops Challenge Guide. If you missed the first 3 episodes, I'll put the links in the description. Today's challenge is Calamity. Kill an entire enemy team of 6 or more players in a very short time with a specialist weapon. So first and foremost, let me emphasize one part of the description. I've had several people come to me and ask why they didn't receive the Calamity challenge after killing more than 6 players with a specialist weapon. You have to kill 6 different players. If you kill more than 6 people and don't receive the challenge, it's because you spawn killed someone and killed them more than once. They have to be 6 different people. You can't kill someone more than once. With that out of the way, let's first talk about what the challenge refers to as a very short time to kill these 6 different enemies. I've seen several Calamity challenge clips. I believe I found the one that has the longest time in between kills that still successfully registered. I'll start the timer from the moment the first kill starts to appear in the kill feed until the very last kill begins to show up as well. The results were absolutely shocking to me. This very short time isn't short at all. You have a whopping 16.033 seconds or less to kill 6 or more enemies. Now granted, most specialist weapons last nowhere near that long at all, especially if you're actively using them. But it's very reassuring to know that the time frame for completing this challenge is extremely generous. Now make no mistake about it, this challenge is very luck-based. To either have 6 people grouped together or run into 6 separate people without killing the same person twice is all about being at the right place at the right time. And with that said, there's several strategies you can use to put you in the right place at the right time. So let's talk about all the specialists first. At the time of this video, there's 9 specialists available that you could potentially complete this challenge with. It's definitely possible to do it with most of them, but some are clearly superior to others. I'll start off by discussing the ones I wouldn't recommend using, with an explanation as to why. Then I'll cover the ones I would recommend using, as well as the strategies you should be using with them. Let's start with Nomad's H.I.V.E. You can outright strike this one from your list immediately. If you haven't seen my very in-depth review of the H.I.V.E. yet, I highly suggest you check it out. I'll put a link in the description. Sadly, the H.I.V.E. can only shoot 5 pods, and each pod can only get you 1 kill. You cannot get a double kill with a single pod, so that means this challenge is impossible to complete with Nomad. You simply can't kill 6 people with 5 pods. So how about Seraph and her Annihilator? An instantly lethal revolver, the Annihilator gives you a hand cannon that can kill targets in a single well-placed shot. And if you have a steady hand, the Annihilator can be one of the strongest weapons in the game. However, you only get 6 shots, so that means there's 0 room for error. Not only do you have to land each and every shot, but you have to ensure you do it on 6 different enemies. To make matters worse, it shoots pretty slow, and you have to have precise aim. One miss and you've blown your opportunity. I'd say this is not viable for this challenge. Next, Outrider's Sparrow. This offensive ability gives you a sweet compound bow that allows you to draw explosive arrows by holding fire. And when fully charged, you can shoot these arrows a good distance with minimal arc. Unfortunately, this is probably the hardest specialist weapon to use in the entire game. Sure, once you get the hang of it, you may be able to rack up a few kill sprees, but for the average player, this sucker is just too difficult to use. Couple in the fact that you only get 8 shots, and that you're likely to get killed while prepping it, it's not a very good candidate for the Calamity challenge. Now, Battery's War Machine is merely average for completing this challenge. I personally would not recommend it, but the objective clearing presence is definitely there. You get 8 grenades, so that does give you a little leeway should you miss once or twice. There's 2 ways to use the War Machine, and both can viably complete this challenge. The first way is how I think it was intended. Find an objective that is filled with enemies, such as a hardpoint. Then, effectively cold cock the entire room into oblivion. The second way to use the War Machine is sorta like a shotgun. While the Flak Jacket perk can protect against a grenade, a direct hit is simply unavoidable. So you can walk around carefully choosing your one-on-one battles and keep scoring direct hit after direct hit. Remember, you have 16 seconds or less to complete the challenge, so going around targeting one enemy at a time definitely is possible. However, you're more likely to get flanked from behind or the side while doing this. Regardless, in the right scenario, the War Machine can be capable of getting a Calamity, but there's still better options. How about Prophet's Tempest? A one-shot electric sniper, if you will, the Tempest requires a short charge time after pulling the trigger. If you score a direct hit, however, it's instantly lethal. This may be an odd thing to say, but of the bad specialist weapons for completing this challenge, this one is the best. The reason for that is because of the chain effect. Once you kill someone with the Tempest, the target remains electrified and automatically fries any nearby hostile players who are too close. If you see a bunch of enemies clustered up, all it takes is one shot to take them all out in a domino-like effect. The issue is you only have 8 shots. Not only this, but oftentimes the gun will fire 2 rapid bursts in a row, essentially wasting one of these. So as I said, it's the best bad specialist weapon to use. It's difficult to aim and successfully land a shot, but the possibility of chaining into a Calamity is always there. Lastly, Reaper's Scythe. The only reason I put this into the quote-unquote bad category is because the remainder of the weapons simply outclass it. Don't get me wrong, the Scythe is extremely powerful, and it's more than capable of smoking an entire team of 6 enemies. However, there's a few negatives associated with it. First, the ammo. While it does come with a whopping 160 rounds, you can burn through these extremely fast, and this will often leave you out of ammo before annihilating the entire team. There's also the fact that there's a brief spin-up time associated with the minigun. Of course, this can be countered by aiming the weapon, as doing so causes it to spin up without firing, but this limits your mobility. The Scythe is essentially a juiced up LMG. More often than not, you'll likely get killed due to the lack of mobility, so I wouldn't consider it a top-notch weapon for this challenge. So that leaves us with Spectre's Ripper, Firebreak's Purifier, and Ruin's Gravity Spikes. All of these are great options because of their killing power. None of these technically have an ammo count, and they're all extremely easy to use. Take the Ripper for example. Not only is this the fastest specialist weapon to earn, but there's little skill involved. If you activate it and pound the melee button, you can slice through enemies like butter and enjoy every second of it. While it's true you still have to get in the enemy's face to use the weapon, it'll often knife through multiple enemies before they can even get a shot off. If there's 6 different enemies lurking nearby, you'd better believe the Ripper will shred them all. Likewise, Firebreak's Purifier lasts a ridiculous amount of time. Not only this, all you have to do is barely touch an enemy and they'll instantly burn to death. You could probably just close your eyes and twirl your character in circles and still kill more people than some of the other weapons. And since this weapon lasts so long and doesn't seem to drain very fast even if you spray it, pre-firing around corners is ideal. The only drawback to this weapon is that in core games the enemy does take a second to catch on fire. So while it is instantly lethal, the enemies can still shoot you as they're burning. To counter this, you can use the Purifier in Hardcore mode. In Hardcore, there's no delay for the death with the Purifier. The moment that crackling fire immolates your enemies, they die. So if your intentions are to complete this challenge in Hardcore, I highly recommend the Purifier. And who could forget the best specialist weapon of them all, Ruin's Gravity Spikes. The Gravity Spikes let you slam into the ground with stunning force, killing any enemies unfortunate enough to be anywhere nearby. The fact that these things work more or less instantly will come in handy for this challenge. There's also practically no skill involved. You find a group of enemies, you push the activation button, and the spikes do the rest. It's a one and done weapon, but you shouldn't need more than one take to cause a calamity of the enemy team. But like all weapons, it does have drawbacks. The one tough thing about the Gravity Spikes is that you can only kill people in your blast radius, and that's it. Whereas if you had a Scythe or a Purifier for example, you could potentially run around in the enemy spawn with more chances to kill players. So with knowing that the Ripper, the Purifier, and the Gravity Spikes are the 3 best weapons to use, what tactics do we deploy? Game mode plays a crucial role in accomplishing this challenge. With that said, Ground War is definitely the best option. As I already mentioned, even though the challenge says kill an entire enemy team of 6 or more, you can still do it in Ground War. Some people may assume that since it says an entire enemy team, that you have to kill all 9 enemy players in Ground War. But this is not true. Only 6 of the 9 players, provided you don't kill any of the 6 twice. If you have issues with Ground War due to lag, you can also try your luck on Nuketown. Just remember that there are only 6 enemies there, and with the map being so small, you have to get pretty lucky to kill all 6 enemies and not have one of your teammates gank a kill. If you can't play Ground War or Nuketown, you're still in luck. And that's because, by far, the best game mode for this is Safeguard. I tried Domination off the spawn at the start of the round, but players tend to spread out and get map control. With Safeguard, there are 2 scenarios that make this perfect to attempt. The first one is at the beginning of a round when the entire enemy team is all around the robot. For some reason, players still believe that having multiple people around the robot makes it move faster. You'll often find 4 to 6 people carrying the robot at the beginning of the round, which makes a great opportunity for the Calamity challenge. The second scenario is when your team has the robot, but this is more luck-based. Once your team takes the robot to a line of sight from the enemy's base, this is what you want. Players will just sit there shooting the robot with their gun or launcher, and sometimes they'll be completely oblivious to their side or flank. So this scenario is all about rushing their spawn and just hoping they're all looking at the robot. There's certain maps that work amazing for this, and luckily they're all featured in the Ground War playlist. The absolute best maps for this are Aquarium, Breach, and Hunted. On Aquarium, for example, if you can rush off the start with your Gravity Spikes and get to the corner before the robot does, you have a good chance with killing a lot of people. As for Breach and Hunted, these maps are perfect for the second scenario I talked about earlier. For both maps, you'll want to wait until your team has the robot and you're pushing up against the enemy spawn. And this is where things get chaotic, as you'll be in their spawn. On Breach, players will just stand outside the robot's goal, clustered together. With all of them bunched up, if you can get there at the right time, it'll definitely give you a good chance at getting the Calamity. You can either come flying in with the Macho Man Randy Savage top rope gravity spikes, or you can slice and dice the shit out of your enemies with the Ripper. Both are equally satisfying and very easy to pull off. Now the exact same technique applies for the map Hunted. Once you're in the enemy spawn as the robot marches towards the goal, the cluster effect will take place, and you can stealthily maneuver your way in for the multi-kill. In fact, there's a patch of grass right outside of the goal that makes for a good hiding spot. Once you see enemies are bunched up, flank from behind, and boom goes the dynamite. I should warn you now that it's not a good idea to rush a position in the open and try to trigger the gravity spikes. That's a good way to get shot while in mid-animation, before you actually land and trigger a shockwave. So for a class setup, I definitely recommend a stealthy build. This will allow you to more easily sneak up on an enemy position. Perks like Ghost, Dead Silence, Blast Suppressor, and even Afterburner can all aid you in doing this. Don't forget to use wall runs and thrust jumps to surprise an enemy group from above while utilizing the gravity spikes. If all else fails, you can utilize the Hater to help you achieve your Calamity goal. By knowing exactly where everyone is at all times, it makes finding and eliminating 6 enemies a lot easier. If you're playing with friends, play Domination and have someone run the Hater. Then have someone flip the spawns. Upon a successful spawn flip, you should be up against the entire enemy team, all ripe for the picking. You can even achieve this without the Hater, as it's very easy to flip the spawns in this game, especially in Domination. And that, as they say, is that. Play Ground War Safeguard for optimal chances to eliminate 6 different enemies out of the 9 that are available. Use either the Ripper, the Purifier, or better yet, the Gravity Spikes. All 3 of these provide extremely efficient ways to rid yourself of 6 enemies in a heartbeat. Ideally, you want to play on the map Aquarium, Hunted, or Breach. You can then catch unsuspecting enemies off guard that are escorting the robot at the start of the round, or traverse deep into the enemy spawn as the robot marches to victory. Either way, you should find 6 or more enemies clustered together, anxious to die. Honestly, this challenge is about 75% luck and 25% picking the perfect time to use your specialist weapon. But with these methods, getting a Calamity should be much easier. If that 25% luck is on your side, you may just be in the right place at the right time.